Most people think spotting a manipulative person takes time, conversations, patterns, proof. Stoicism teaches something quieter. In the first 10 seconds, before words matter, your body already knows. Not because you are judging them, but because your system senses alignment or pressure. Here is the rule. In the first 10 seconds, do not analyze them. Watch what happens inside you. If your breath shortens, if your body tightens, if you feel the need to adjust, explain, or manage their comfort, that is not intuition being dramatic. That is perception, working faster than thought. By the end of this video, you will recognize that signal instantly, and you will no longer ignore it. This video is not about accusing anyone. It is about learning to recognize that moment, so you can remain steady, untouched, and free. Most people believe manipulation is something dramatic, something loud, something that announces itself with obvious harm. Stoicism teaches the opposite. What disrupts your peace rarely arrives as an attack. It arrives quietly, disguised as warmth, interest, familiarity, or concern. And the danger is not that someone might try to influence you. Influence exists everywhere. The danger is that you might surrender your inner steadiness before you even realize it has shifted. Stoic wisdom does not ask you to see enemies where there are none. It asks you to see reality clearly, without emotional fog. The Stoic path is not about reacting faster. It is about reacting less. It is about observing calmly enough that nothing unnecessary gains access to your inner world. When you understand this, the idea of spotting manipulation in under 10 seconds is no longer about judgment. It is about preservation. You do not need months to understand someone's character, because character leaks through behavior long before words settle into meaning. The Stoics understood that human beings reveal themselves in moments of unguarded alignment, when intention, emotion, and presence briefly overlap. These moments often occur at the very beginning of an interaction, before social masks are fully secured. Not because people are evil, but because habits of control move faster than conscious thought. The first 10 seconds are not important because you should decide who someone is. They are important because you should notice how you feel becoming around them. Stoicism teaches that your nervous system is not an enemy of reason. It is a messenger. Long before your mind constructs explanations, your body registers harmony or tension, openness or pressure, ease or vigilance. The mistake most people make is not that they feel something subtle. It is that they dismiss it too quickly in the name of politeness, optimism, or self-doubt. A manipulative dynamic does not begin with manipulation. It begins with imbalance. Something slightly off, too much familiarity too soon, attention that feels measuring rather than meeting, warmth that arrives without time earning it. These are not accusations, they are signals, and Stoicism never asks you to panic at signals. It asks you to observe them without attachment, to say quietly, "I notice this," instead of, "I must explain this away." Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that peace is not maintained by controlling others, but by governing one's own perceptions. You are not harmed by someone's behavior unless you allow it to pull you out of yourself. The Stoic path does not require confrontation. It does not require exposure. It does not require labels. Clarity alone dissolves most unhealthy dynamics before they ever take form. When someone is grounded, present, and sincere, your body relaxes, your breath deepens. Your mind does not rush to perform or manage. When someone is subtly seeking control, even unconsciously, your system tightens. You may feel alert, responsible, slightly watched, or unusually self-aware. Stoicism teaches you not to shame these sensations and not to dramatize them either. Simply acknowledge them as information. This is where most people lose themselves. They sense the mismatch, then override it. They tell themselves they are imagining things. They tell themselves to be kinder, more flexible, more understanding. Stoic wisdom offers a gentler alternative. You do not need to accuse. You do not need to justify. You do not need to fix. You only need to remain steady and watch. The power of spotting manipulation early is not that you gain control over others. It is that you never hand over control of yourself. When you stay rooted in awareness, manipulation finds nothing to attach to. It requires confusion, urgency, and emotional overinvestment. Calm observation starves it completely. On the Stoic path, clarity is not sharp. It is quiet. It does not shout warnings. It whispers alignment. And when you learn to listen to that whisper in the first 10 seconds, you stop living reactively and begin living deliberately. Not hardened, not closed, simply awake, centered, and free. Stoicism teaches that truth does not announce itself. It leaks. It appears in small, unguarded moments, long before language becomes polished or intention becomes strategic. This is why the first 10 seconds of an interaction matter, not because you should decide who someone is, but because this is the moment when behavior is still faster than performance. Most people believe manipulation is something calculated, something that unfolds slowly over time. In reality, the impulse to control often moves instantly. It appears before trust exists, before connection is earned, before there is any real reason for closeness. And the Stoic does not rush to label this as good or bad. The Stoic simply watches. In the first moments of meeting someone, notice whether their presence feels meeting or measuring. A grounded person arrives as they are. Their energy is stable, unforced, and unhurried. A manipulative pattern often begins with adjustment, not natural adaptation, but rapid calibration. They subtly scan your tone, your posture, your openness, your emotional availability, then shift themselves to match it. This is not empathy. Empathy listens first. This is imitation used as entry. The speed matters. When warmth arrives too quickly, when familiarity appears without time, when someone seems unusually attuned to you before they truly know you, pause. Stoicism reminds us that what is rushed is rarely rooted. True connection unfolds at the pace of trust. Control tries to arrive before consent. There is also something else that appears in these first seconds, something so subtle it is often felt rather than seen. A look that lingers a fraction too long. Eye contact that feels assessing rather than present. A brief tightening in the face that does not match the words being spoken. These are not dramatic signals. They are quiet inconsistencies. And Stoicism teaches us to respect inconsistencies without chasing explanations. Another early sign is energy that presses instead of meets. You may notice someone leaning in physically or emotionally before the moment calls for it, using your name repeatedly, offering compliments that feel rehearsed, asking personal questions that arrive before comfort has been established. None of this is proof of ill intent, but all of it is information. The Stoic mistake is not noticing these things. The Stoic mistake is dismissing them out of fear of appearing rude, guarded, or unkind. Stoicism is not about harsh boundaries. It is about natural boundaries. Boundaries that exist simply because you are present enough to feel when something moves too fast. Pay attention also to how you feel internally. Do you remain relaxed, or do you feel slightly alert? Do you feel seen, or do you feel observed? Do you feel met, or do you feel managed? Stoicism honors these sensations without dramatizing them. Your body is not overreacting. It is registering alignment or misalignment in real time. This is why the first 10 seconds matter. Not because they reveal a villain, but because they reveal a dynamic. Healthy dynamics feel spacious. Unhealthy ones feel directional. They subtly move you somewhere, before you have decided to go there. The Stoic path asks for restraint, not reaction. You do not confront what you notice. You do not correct it. You simply remain steady and slow yourself down. Manipulative energy feeds on speed and emotional openness without grounding. When you slow your responses, when you allow silence, when you stay rooted in yourself, the dynamic reveals itself without effort. In those first 10 seconds, clarity is already present. You do not need to sharpen it. You only need to stop overriding it. Stoicism teaches us to trust coherence. When something is true, it aligns. When something is forced, it fractures. One of the clearest ways to recognize an unhealthy dynamic is not through what someone says, but through the quiet contradiction between their words and their presence. Manipulation does not usually reveal itself through lies. It reveals itself through mismatch. A person can speak kindly while their body remains tense. They can offer praise while their eyes appear restless or impatient. They can laugh while their shoulders stay rigid, as if braced. These are not dramatic signals. They are small inconsistencies that the mind often ignores, but the body registers immediately. Stoicism reminds us that perception begins before interpretation. You feel something before you explain it away. When words and energy disagree, confusion arises. You may feel unsettled without knowing why. You may find yourself replaying the interaction later, searching for what felt off. This is not weakness. It is awareness without language yet. The Stoic does not rush to translate this feeling into accusation. The Stoic simply holds it with calm attention. Notice how someone reacts when attention shifts away from them. In healthy presence, attention moves naturally. In a manipulative dynamic, even subtle redirection can produce tension. A smile fades too quickly. The body stiffens. There is a brief withdrawal or a sudden attempt to reclaim engagement. These reactions happen fast, often before the person is aware of them. They are not planned. They are habitual. Another form of mismatch appears in emotional tone. Someone may present themselves as humble while quietly fishing for reassurance. They may claim not to care while closely monitoring your response. They may apologize while their tone remains defensive, as if the apology is a performance rather than a release. Stoicism teaches us not to argue with words that sound correct, but to observe whether they settle the atmosphere or strain it. There is also the pattern of emotional push and pull, warmth followed by distance, interest followed by silence, engagement followed by subtle withdrawal. This rhythm creates uncertainty, and uncertainty invites effort. You may find yourself trying to restore balance, clarify intent, or re-establish connection. The Stoic notices this impulse and pauses. Healthy relationships do not require emotional management in their earliest moments. Boundaries are often where mismatch becomes most visible. Someone may appear charming while ignoring your comfort, offering help you did not ask for, sharing personal details too quickly, pressing closeness under the disguise of openness. Stoicism does not interpret this as generosity. It interprets it as acceleration. And what accelerates before trust is earned often seeks leverage rather than connection. Here is a simple Stoic observation. Healthy people make you feel relaxed. Manipulative dynamics make you feel responsible. Responsible for their mood. Responsible for keeping things smooth. Responsible for not disappointing them. If you feel this weight early on, before any real bond exists, pay attention. That weight is not intimacy. It is imbalance. The Stoic path does not teach suspicion. It teaches self-respect. You are not obligated to resolve emotional contradictions that are not yours. You are not required to make sense of behavior that unsettles you. You are allowed to remain still and observe without absorbing. When words and energy do not match, clarity emerges naturally when you stop trying to reconcile them. You do not need certainty, you need steadiness. Manipulation loses its power when it can no longer create confusion. And confusion dissolves the moment you choose observation over explanation. On the Stoic path, mismatch is not a threat, it is information. And information, calmly received, restores your center instead of pulling you away from it. Stoicism does not teach us to divide the world into good people and bad people. It teaches us to understand human behavior without surrendering our inner balance, to see clearly without hardening the heart. When we look at manipulation through this lens, something important becomes visible. Manipulation is rarely born from confidence. It is almost always born from fear. A manipulative pattern is often the outward expression of an unstable inner world. Instead of regulating their own emotions, some people attempt to regulate the emotions of others. When they feel uncertain, they seek reassurance. When they feel powerless, they seek control. When they feel unworthy, they seek validation. Not openly, but indirectly. Not consciously, but habitually. This does not make them monsters, it makes them uncentered. And Stoicism reminds us that an uncentered person will always try to lean on something outside themselves. Sometimes that something is another person's attention, approval, or emotional energy. Many manipulative behaviors develop as survival strategies. Some people learn early that honesty did not bring safety, but strategy did. That vulnerability was not met with care, but with consequence. Over time, they replace authenticity with tactics. They learn to read others quickly, to sense emotional openings, to adapt themselves in ways that secure connection without risk. What appears as confidence is often a shield. What appears as charm is often anxiety disguised as control. One of the core drivers behind manipulation is emotional instability. When someone cannot sit comfortably with their own emotions, they attempt to manage the emotional climate around them. They pull others closer when they feel threatened. They create distance when they feel exposed. They oscillate between warmth and withdrawal, not to harm, but to stabilize themselves. The cost of this stabilization, however, is placed on those around them. Another driver is low self-worth combined with high social awareness. This combination creates someone who understands people deeply, but does not trust that they will be accepted without effort. Instead of allowing connection to form naturally, they engineer it. They rush closeness. They probe for usefulness. They seek leverage, not because they are malicious, but because they do not believe they can simply be. Stoicism does not ask you to excuse this behavior. Understanding is not permission. Compassion does not require access. You can acknowledge the roots of manipulation without volunteering yourself as soil for it to grow. There is also the element of selective empathy. Manipulative individuals are often emotionally perceptive. They sense vulnerability quickly. They notice hesitation, kindness, openness. But instead of responding with care, they respond with strategy. They move toward emotional cracks not to support, but to secure influence. Again, this is not a conscious plan in many cases. It is a practiced reflex. A powerful Stoic insight is this: manipulators do not seek weak people. They seek open people. People who listen. People who give benefit of the doubt. People who value harmony over dominance. These are strengths, but without boundaries, strengths become entry points. The Stoic path teaches a quiet truth. You are not responsible for healing someone else's insecurity. You are responsible for guarding your own inner order. You can see fear without absorbing it. You can understand pain without carrying it. When you recognize why manipulation exists, something shifts. You stop personalizing it. You stop asking what you did wrong. You stop trying to fix what was never yours to fix. Clarity replaces confusion. And in that clarity, manipulation loses its emotional gravity. On the Stoic path, understanding does not soften your boundaries. It strengthens them. Stoicism teaches that nothing truly enters your life all at once. It enters in increments through what you permit repeatedly. Manipulation does not begin with a demand. It begins with a question, a pause, a small reach into your space to see how much resistance exists. And the Stoic does not miss these moments, because they are where intention quietly tests permission. Manipulative behavior is rarely impulsive. It is experimental. Before someone attempts to influence you in any meaningful way, they observe how you respond to small violations. These violations are subtle enough to be dismissed, which is precisely why they work. Stoicism trains you to notice what others overlook, not to react, but to remain sovereign. One of the earliest boundary tests is casual interruption. Someone speaks over you lightly, redirects the conversation, or finishes your thought without invitation. This is not about rudeness. It is about priority. They are observing whether you reclaim your space or quietly yield it. Your response, or lack of one, becomes information. Another common test is micro-disrespect. A small dismissal of an opinion, a joke at your expense framed as humor, a subtle correction delivered with a smile. These moments are designed to be ambiguous. If you object, you risk appearing sensitive. If you remain silent, permission is silently granted. Stoicism offers a third path. You do not defend. You simply notice and adjust your investment accordingly. Inconsistent tone is another measurement tool. Excessive warmth followed by sudden coolness. Engagement followed by withdrawal. This shift is not accidental. It is a probe. They are watching to see if you rush to restore balance, explain yourself, or seek reassurance. The Stoic response is stillness. You do not chase equilibrium. You allow behavior to reveal itself. Selective listening also appears early. Someone nods at the right moments, but responds in ways that do not reflect what you actually shared. The interest is performative, not present. This signals that the interaction is being used to gather data rather than build connection. Stoicism teaches us that true listening leaves you feeling met, not managed. Another subtle test is intimacy inflation. Personal stories, emotional disclosures, or praise arrive before trust has time to form. This creates pressure to reciprocate, to open, to match vulnerability prematurely. The Stoic does not confuse speed with sincerity. Depth unfolds naturally. Acceleration often seeks leverage. Watch closely how someone responds to your limits. Not dramatic limits, simple ones. A delayed reply, a brief refusal, a neutral boundary. Do they accept it with ease, or do they respond with irritation, guilt, or withdrawal? Stoicism teaches that character reveals itself not in agreement, but in resistance. When someone reacts poorly to a small no, they were never interested in connection. They were interested in access. There is also the test of emotional responsibility. Do you feel subtly compelled to manage their comfort, to soften your words, to over-explain your choices, to smile through discomfort? These impulses are not random. They arise when someone quietly places their emotional state into your hands. The Stoic notices this transfer and gently sets it back where it belongs. A central Stoic truth is this: you do not need to confront manipulation to neutralize it. You only need to stop rewarding it. Attention, urgency, emotional labor, and over-explanation are its fuel. When these are withdrawn calmly, the behavior either corrects itself or moves on. Boundaries, on the Stoic path, are not walls. They are posture. You remain open, but you do not lean forward. You remain kind, but you do not overextend. You remain present, but you do not perform. Manipulators reveal themselves not through aggression, but through persistence. And persistence fails when it meets someone who is centered, observant, and unwilling to abandon themselves for the sake of comfort. On the Stoic path, your boundaries do not announce themselves. They are felt. Stoicism asks us to correct a common misunderstanding. Manipulative dynamics are not drawn to weakness. They are drawn to openness, to people who listen carefully, respond thoughtfully, and give others the benefit of the doubt. These are not fragile traits. They are signs of emotional maturity. But when they are unguarded, they become visible entry points for those who seek control instead of connection. Emotionally generous people tend to approach others with curiosity rather than suspicion. They seek understanding before judgment. They value harmony and prefer resolution over conflict. From a Stoic perspective, these qualities reflect strength of character. Yet to a manipulative mind, they signal availability, not emotional weakness, but emotional access. Manipulators often look for people who internalize responsibility quickly. If you apologize easily, even when you have done nothing wrong, you communicate that you are willing to carry discomfort for the sake of peace. If you explain your decisions in detail, you reveal that you can be influenced through questioning rather than force. If you hesitate to say no, not because you cannot, but because you do not want to disappoint, you reveal a preference for relational comfort over personal alignment. None of this is a flaw. It simply becomes information. Stoicism teaches that generosity without self-governance slowly becomes self-erasure. When kindness is offered without limits, it invites imbalance. Manipulative behavior thrives not because someone is dominant, but because someone else is accommodating. The dynamic is not power over weakness. It is pressure applied to empathy. There is also a deeper reason manipulators gravitate toward emotionally intelligent people. Emotional intelligence allows one to read nuance, sense emotional shifts, and respond with care. In healthy relationships, this creates safety. In unhealthy dynamics, it creates leverage. The manipulative person does not need to push. They allow your own compassion to do the work for them. Another trait often targeted is the tendency towards self-blame. If something feels off, emotionally generous people often look inward first. They ask what they could have done differently. They seek their own error before questioning another's intent. Stoicism respects accountability, but warns against misplaced responsibility. Not every discomfort originates within you. Manipulators also seek those who see potential rather than patterns, those who excuse inconsistency as stress, those who interpret distance as vulnerability, those who offer second chances before clarity has been established. Again, these tendencies are not signs of weakness, they are expressions of hope. But hope without discernment becomes exposure. The Stoic path does not ask you to abandon these qualities. It asks you to anchor them. Empathy is not meant to override perception. Compassion is not meant to replace clarity. Emotional generosity is most powerful when it is voluntary, not extracted. Here is a central Stoic truth. Manipulation relies on confusion. The moment you see clearly, the dynamic weakens. When you stop explaining, stop compensating, and stop taking responsibility for emotions that are not yours, you become inaccessible without becoming closed. You do not need to become colder to be safer. You need to become steadier. When you remain rooted in yourself, your generosity becomes selective, not reactive. Your kindness becomes intentional, not automatic. On the Stoic path, the goal is not to harden the heart, it is to protect its direction. Stoicism teaches that the strongest protection is not force, but composure. You do not need to confront manipulation, expose it, or defeat it. Conflict often feeds the very dynamics you are trying to escape. The Stoic path offers a quieter, more effective approach. Remove the reward. What receives no emotional fuel cannot continue. The first and most powerful adjustment is to slow down your reactions. Manipulative dynamics depend on speed, quick responses, immediate reassurance, emotional availability before reflection. When you pause, even briefly, you disrupt the rhythm. A calm delay creates space, and space restores choice. You are no longer responding automatically. You are responding deliberately. Second, simplify your boundaries. Long explanations invite negotiation. They provide openings for guilt, persuasion, or reinterpretation. Stoicism values brevity because brevity preserves clarity. Instead of justifying yourself, state your limit plainly. That doesn't work for me. No apology, no defense, no emotional charge. Boundaries delivered calmly require no reinforcement. Third, observe rather than absorb. When someone behaves inconsistently, the instinct is to internalize it, to ask what you did wrong, to adjust yourself. Stoicism teaches detachment without indifference. You watch behavior as behavior, not as truth about you. When you stop personalizing someone else's instability, their actions lose their power to unsettle you. Fourth, refuse the transfer of emotional responsibility. Manipulators often place their discomfort into your hands. They become distant, irritated, or disappointed in ways that invite you to fix the atmosphere. You are not being cold by declining this role. You are being aligned. Each person is responsible for regulating their own emotional state. When you allow others to carry theirs, the dynamic rebalances naturally. Fifth, maintain emotional neutrality. This does not mean becoming distant or unkind. It means staying centered. Manipulative behavior feeds on reaction, excitement, defensiveness, guilt, urgency. When these are absent, the behavior has nothing to attach to. Calm presence is not passive. It is stabilizing. Finally, trust your early discomfort. Stoicism honors the body as an instrument of perception. If your chest tightens, if your breath shortens, if your energy feels pulled rather than met, listen. You do not need evidence. You do not need certainty. You need self-respect. Early discomfort is not a command to act. It is a signal to slow down. The Stoic does not fight manipulation. Fighting keeps you engaged in the script. Instead, you stop participating. You remain kind, but not available. Open, but not overextended. Present, but not responsible for outcomes that do not belong to you. Protection on the Stoic path is subtle. It looks like calm. It sounds like brevity. It feels like steadiness. There is no drama, no explanation, no need to be understood. When you stop reacting, manipulation reveals itself or dissolves. Either way, your peace remains intact. Stoicism does not ask you to remember long rules in moments of pressure. It gives you a single anchor, one sentence you can return to when energy feels off, when something subtle unsettles you, when you sense a shift but do not yet need to explain it. This sentence is not a weapon. It is a posture. I notice. I remain steady. That is all. This sentence does not accuse. It does not diagnose. It does not escalate. It brings you back into yourself. I notice means you allow reality to register without resistance. You do not deny what you feel. You do not rush to justify it. You simply acknowledge it. I remain steady means you do not abandon your center to manage someone else's behavior, emotions, or expectations. When manipulation is present, it thrives on movement, on reaction, on urgency, on emotional adjustment. This sentence removes all of that. It keeps you where you are, calm, grounded, observing. You do not need to say this sentence out loud. It is not for them. It is for you. It reminds you that clarity does not require confrontation, and self-respect does not require explanation. The moment you stay steady, the dynamic changes. Either the behavior softens or it becomes visible. In both cases, you gain freedom. Stoicism is not about winning encounters, it is about not losing yourself inside them. This sentence protects that. If this resonates with you, take a moment and place it in the comments below. I notice. I remain steady. End quote. Not as a declaration to others, but as a quiet commitment to yourself. A reminder that you do not need to rush, fix, or prove anything to stay safe. Awareness is enough. Steadiness is enough. On the Stoic path, peace is not something you demand from the world. It is something you maintain within yourself. Stoicism does not promise a world without difficult people. It promises a way of moving through the world without losing yourself to them. Manipulation only has power when it pulls you out of your center, when it creates confusion, urgency, or emotional responsibility that was never yours to carry. The moment you see clearly, that power dissolves. Spotting a manipulative dynamic in the first 10 seconds is not about suspicion. It is about presence. It is about being grounded enough to feel when something is rushed, imbalanced, or misaligned, and calm enough not to override that awareness. You do not need to label anyone. You do not need to confront anything. Clarity does the work quietly. When you trust your perception, you stop being drawn into explanations. You stop negotiating your boundaries internally. You stop apologizing for instincts that are simply information. This is not hardness. It is self-respect in its most natural form. The Stoic path teaches that freedom is internal. No one takes it from you. You give it away when you abandon your steadiness to manage someone else's discomfort. When you remain centered, kind, and observant, manipulation finds no grip. It requires confusion to survive. Awareness starves it. If this way of seeing resonates with you, stay with this path. Not to gain power over others, but to remain sovereign over yourself. This channel exists to offer clarity without aggression, strength without domination, and calm without withdrawal. If you would like to continue walking this path, you are welcome here. Subscribe to Stoic Path for reflections that help you stay grounded in a noisy world. And if this message brought you a moment of clarity, share it with someone who values peace over performance. Remember this as you move forward. You do not need to fight manipulation. You only need to stop participating in it. Clarity is freedom.